Hey guys, it's Darcy again. Hope everybody's doing good. I hope you've had a chance to check out at least a few of my videos, and it'd be really nice to get some feedback. Let me know what you think. Today I decided that since I want to normalize mental health and the stigma of it, and I want to kind of go over what causes some of it. And for me, it was trauma. And I say that a lot, and through the years, I've done a lot of talking about like my story, um, but I haven't really told it the way that I think it needs to be told. So the reason why I want to tell my story is because I think that there are still kids out there, and this is mainly directed at younger people or anybody who's in a new social situation where they don't really have people that they know really well that they're around. My story began when I was 14 years old. So where I grew up, when you hit grade 9, you're actually entering high school. That's your first year of high school. I came from a like really small school in the middle of nowhere. It's like in the middle of the country. Great kids, but when we graduated, we all kind of went to different schools. So the school that I chose to go to, there really wasn't too many people that I knew. So it was a brand new experience for me, which was kind of scary to begin with, just because I've always come across as a very social person, but I've never really felt like I fit in anywhere. Um, so when I was going into grade 9, it was really scary for me because it was new people, it was a new experience, it was everything was new. So I've dated myself already. So this was back in the early 90s, like we're talking 90, 91. So when I started high school, I started making friends, and some of them I really liked them, and I wanted to spend more time with them and kind of get to know them. So it was the weekend of Thanksgiving. So it was the first Thanksgiving of my grade 9 year. Um, and two girls that I knew I thought I knew them relatively well, invited me to hang out for the night and to sleep over at one of their houses. So I asked my parents, and they said, "Yeah, go for it." So we did, and the three of us were hanging out at one of the girls' houses, and we were all kind of bored. And they lived in a town. See, I grew up in the country, so living in a town, we actually could go out and do stuff. So we decided, well, we were still young, we were 14, we decided to go to the local park and just hang out. Well, it turns out that one of the girls, the girl that we were staying in the house at, in fact, knew her next door neighbor, and it was a boy. And she said, "Well, do you mind if he hangs out with us?" And me and the other girl were like, Whatever, sure." So him and another boy, and I'm not going to use their names, um, came to the park to hang out with us. Now, I didn't know these kids. They didn't go to my school. They went to a Catholic school, Catholic high school in another town. So I've never met these people before. And before we knew it, one of them had brought out a Mickey of vodka. I've never been a drinker. I mean, by this point, I think there was like one time that I actually tried alcohol and I didn't like it. But I was young and I was dumb, and I wanted to, I guess, fit in. So I decided to partake in the drinking. Well, I took one sip and I wanted to throw up. So the other girls, they took a few sips, but not too much. And the boys that we were with were kind of egging me on. And I guess I can say I was very naive at the time. I didn't think that I was doing anything to like provoke them. Like I was wearing a button-up shirt that I literally had the top button done, big baggy pants, like tight at the waist, but like big baggy pants. Like I wasn't dressed inappropriately, like in my mind, and I had a boyfriend at the time, and the girls knew it, and I'm pretty sure I'd been talking about him throughout the night. But at one point, one of the boys, he tricked me into chugging the bottle. Now, when I say he tricked me, I'd already had like a sip or two by this point, and I don't drink, so the alcohol went straight to my head. And he went to go take a swig, a big swig, and I thought he did. And it wasn't until afterwards that I found out he actually had his tongue stopping the bottle. And then he passed it to me. And me being the dumbass that I am, and trying to fit in, and all these other stupid reasons that I had, decided I was going to take a sip, a big sip. Okay, good. I gulped it. Okay, it was probably 2 solid mouthfuls of vodka. Now, I've never drank before, so needless to say, it went straight to my head. I do remember at one point one of the boys trying to convince me to go for a walk, and I was like, "No, no, it's okay. I'm good here. I'm just gonna play on the slide." And I remember I went to go slide down the slide, but I slipped and I fell backwards and I hit my head. And from that point on, I don't really remember a whole lot. There's a few things that I remember. The next thing I remember was me and the same boy sitting a little bit of a distance away from everyone else, and I really wasn't sure how we got over there. Um, so obviously now when I look back at it, I was starting to black out. I now I know also from like future experiences, I black out very easily from alcohol. So, but this would have been my very first time drinking. So, yeah, I do remember sitting there, and I remember telling him over and over and over again, I just want my boyfriend's name. I just kept saying I wanted my boyfriend to come pick me up. I wanted him to come get me in his car. And I kept going on about the type of car he had. And that is truly the last thing I really remember about that night. Everything else that I do remember, it's more like a dream. It's really hard to explain. I was very, very, very scared when I woke up the next day. Um, I knew something had gone on, but I wasn't sure what. And I was in extreme amounts of pain, and I didn't know why. Um, when I woke up, the 2 girls were in the bedroom because I woke up in a bedroom, and we were at one of the girls' houses. Um, and they were asking me if I was okay and all this stuff, and I really didn't know why they were asking me this. So I was like, I think so. And I remember going to the bathroom and realizing that my underwear were gone. And I remember that there was a lot of blood. And I was worried. I was scared at that point, but I didn't want to jump to conclusions. I didn't want to think that anything bad happened. Um, I was dealing with a hangover, so I felt like crap. I'd never felt this way before. Um, Now, you see, I said I had a boyfriend before. Thing is, though, I was a virgin. Um, the boyfriend I had was like the third boyfriend I'd ever had in my life, and he was very respectful, and he never tried to force that on me. So I'm really thankful of that. But I was a virgin when this took place. So these little demons not only violated me, but they took something from me that I'll never get back. I'm never going to have the choice of who and when I give that to. Um, and that was a really hard thing to deal with. That was pretty much the very first thing I thought of. Then I asked the girls to explain to me what happened. So they thought it would be better if they just took me back over to the park and kind of show me where and what happened. And that's where there was a lot of evidence. There was the empty Mickey bottle, there was my underwear, and they were stained. There was about 7 used condoms, which I'll get to that in a moment. And I just remember looking at the condoms, like, where did these come? Like, thankfully they used condoms. Like, I remember thinking, oh, thank God they used condoms, but why are there so many? And that's when the one girl said to me, Darcy, there wasn't just 2 of them. Yeah, you heard me right. One of the guys decided to call their buddies and have a little bit of fun with the passed out girl. Altogether, I think there was about 7 of them that were involved. Um, I do know 2 of their names. Um, but anyways, so yeah, it turned out that it became a big hurrah for these guys. And the saddest part about it is that they had done it to another girl at a party like a year or two before that. So we're talking at like 11, 12 years old. They sexually not just assaulted, but embarrassed a girl in front of an entire party. And this would have been in grade like 7. So this goes to show you how demented these boys are. But like I said, I didn't know these people, okay? I was trusting the girls that I was with. One of the girls lived beside this guy and had known him for years, one of the guys. Um, so when I found out, when I was sitting there and I was actually trying to process what happened, my first thought was, are you two okay? Like, were my friends okay? Like, did they get hurt? And they looked at each other and they looked at me and they said, no, we're fine. I said, what do you mean you're fine? And they said, they only did it to you. And I said, okay. And what were you guys doing during all of this? And they said they were told they had to sit on the swings and watch. And if either of them tried to move, that they'd be next. And my heart broke for them because that would be a terrible position to be in. I was at least unconscious for most of it. Throughout the years, a lot of the memories have come back, and they're pretty traumatic. And there was definitely more than 2 that I remember. But the reason why I'm trying to tell this story is because I thought I knew these people. I thought I could trust them. I had known them for a few months by this point, and it turned out I made a really bad decision. And not only did I make a bad decision, but that decision ended up affecting the rest of my life. The funny thing about that whole night is, it was one of my girlfriend's birthdays, and I was supposed to go hang out with her that night. And I chose to go hang out with these other 2 girls instead. It was harsh. The worst, one of the worst parts about it was while they were sitting there and explaining to me what happened as we're sitting there in the park, one of our classmates, nice guy, but a little bit of a big mouth on him, comes strolling through the park, sees everything that we're looking at, puts 2 and 2 together, and of course I start freaking out because by that point everything's actually setting in what they're telling me. So I'm freaking out, and yeah, he figures out that it's me. Needless to say, by the end of that weekend and I go to school, there was quite a few people who knew. I'm gonna say I am one of the most fortunate survivors of rape, simply because the people that I knew at school, the friends that aside from these 2 girls, but the people that I had in my life, were amazing supports. I had one classmate, I won't say his name, but his name starts with a P, and he no longer lives in Canada. And I'd say, he wasn't my boyfriend, he was just a friend of mine, and he's probably one of the main reasons I made it through it without killing myself. He gave me a lot of strength, he gave me a lot of support, and it was a really nice feeling. It was really good to feel that way, and I was really fortunate. Unfortunately, though, over the years, probably about 2 years after the incident, maybe 3, is when my illness really started kicking in. And I started making a lot of pretty stupid choices. I've always been very fortunate. I'm gonna be totally honest. I've been very fortunate. I've never ended up in jail. I've never physically harmed anyone. But I've made a lot of really dumb decisions. And the funniest thing is for about 25 years after the incident, I never understood why I was making the decisions I was making. Why was I putting myself in these extremely dangerous situations? Because I was finding myself in, I could write a story about the crap that I found myself in, the drugs I was dabbling in, the reckless sex. I never understood any of it. And I had absolutely no trust in men. None. Um, I could once, if I already knew them, if I knew them prior to the event, I really didn't have an issue with trust with them. It was anyone that I met after it. Um, and that included a lot of my boyfriends. So there was absolutely no trust. I'm pretty sure that if any of my boyfriends were to comment on this video, they would say I was an absolute lunatic and I used to fly off the handle at absolutely nothing. And that's true. Um, and the reason for that, now that I know, was because I have borderline personality disorder. And it's caused by trauma, and it makes it very, 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 very hard to have successful interpersonal relationships. And that doesn't mean just with like boyfriends. It's anyone that comes into my life. Um, it's an automatic fear of abandonment. It's an automatic fear of I'm not good enough. It's a fear of um, it's a constant state of panic and fear and abandonment. And I will push people away rather than deal with them, get rid of me. And that has always been the way I've done things. And it wasn't until I got diagnosed at 34, 35 that I realized that. And yeah, I can't believe it's been 11 years, but a lot's come clear to me now. And it makes me really sad because I never went to the police. I was terrified. I didn't even tell my family about it for about 3 years afterwards. Um, I had so much shame. I had so much shame and guilt because I could have gone to my other friends for her birthday and maybe this was the karma I was getting for not going. Um, Maybe that's what I deserved. I was nothing better than that. And then unfortunately, a lot of the men that I chose in my life had hypersexual libidos. So I always felt like that's all I was good for. Um, Even if they treated me nicely, that's how I viewed myself. Um, and the reason why it breaks my heart is because I know that there's others out there who have gone through this and who have kept quiet and stayed silent. And I know you have suffered just like me. And for years, like, guys, I went undiagnosed I was 14 when it happened. I got diagnosed at 30, so 25 years. Um, and my life was hell. It was absolute hell. I could not make a good decision if my life depended on it. My family has been a great emotional support, but unfortunately, they've had to be a financial support for me too because I just can't seem to make good decisions. I'm getting better at it. I do a lot of CBT. I do a lot of reflecting. Um, I'm very mindful of my behavior and what I say and what I do. But it's amazing to me that something that these boys did, A, one of them went without punishment, and that pisses me off. I know the other one did because, well, a few people did not like the idea of what they did to me. I had nothing to do with that. I just know that one of them definitely paid for it. The other one, I think I wouldn't be surprised if he's done it another time or two. And if that's the case, I'm going to feel really guilty about it because I feel like if I had said something, I could have stopped it. But in all honesty, at 14 years old, I felt alone. I didn't want to shame my family. I didn't want to become the school floozy. It was a really, really, really tough time. And that's why I'm trying to normalize mental health because what a lot of people don't realize is a lot of people aren't born with mental health issues. It's the environment that they're brought into or they have to live in, or it's the trauma that they go through. You can come from an amazing family, like amazing family, and still go through a trauma that absolutely destroys you. And then when people ask, oh, well, look at that drug bag over there. And it's like, no, you know what? What did they go through that they're at the point where they're just trying to not feel anything because all they feel is pain from trauma in their past? That's the reality, folks. It's not that people become drug addicts and then become mental health patients. It's usually mental health that goes untreated. And then it turns into an addiction issue, whether it be drugs or booze or gambling or sex or whatever it is. There's so much untreated trauma out there, and it's because of shame. And that's the thing, girls, guys, if someone has done to you what has happened to me, it's not us that should be shamed. We're not the shameful ones. We're the ones that survived it. The people who harmed us, who hurt us, those people need to be exposed for what and who they are. Now, if I would honestly say like 35 years younger, I think I would go after them. I'm confident I would go after them, but I'm not confident I'd win. There is still a huge problem with our judicial system, with women who come forward and get shamed in the process. If anyone is listening to me, understand this. If anyone tells you no before or during sex and you choose to continue, you are raping them. You are doing something against their will, and it is very wrong. And that is something that you're not just taking a moment from this person, you're destroying their life. And if you're okay with that, then you need some serious mental help. And I'm talking serious amounts. Because anyone who can inflict that kind of pain on someone else, just because they think it's 20 minutes of fun, and guys, by the way, most of you don't even last that long, you are a sick individual. And anyone who's been victimized by these people, do not let them shame you because you have done nothing wrong. I don't care if you were wearing nothing. We live in North America, people. If someone says no, then it's no. And guess what? I'm a mom of a boy and a girl. And guess what they learned the minute they hit puberty? You do not touch someone, and the minute someone says no, you back the hell off. You guys need to start teaching this to your kids because rape culture, it hasn't gone away. No, girls are just shamed into not talking about it, so it goes unreported. Just because it's not being reported doesn't mean it's not happening. And it's the judicial system that's made it impossible for girls to come forward. We don't want to because it's our name that gets dragged through the mud. It is our past that gets dragged out into the open, not the perpetrators. It's the victim. And yeah, that's the law allowing lawyers to do that. That's wrong. And there's no two ways about it. You've made it so that the victims can't come forward. But you cannot say that rape culture doesn't exist because it's everywhere. And it needs to stop. It's gotten to the point where you're now victimizing children openly on internet and stuff. What's going wrong with this world, people? Like, a lot of this has to do with mental health. People who do this shit, excuse my French, are not healthy. And maybe if we stopped shaming mental health, then people would actually go and get the help. And if people actually went and sought help, maybe they'd realize that what they're doing is wrong. It's not just the victim that needs mental health help afterwards. When these people get thrown in jail, what do they have to, like, do they have to go through any form of reform? I'd like to know. Because as far as I know, when you destroy somebody's life just for a little bit of pleasure for yourself and that's it, you deserve to rot in jail. Plain and simple. And that goes for guys, girls, that goes for anyone who does anything to another person against their will. You don't do it. And if you're going to, then you need to realize that there is something deeply wrong with you and you need professional help. I managed to live through my horrible past and come out the other side. And guess what? I'm not letting those demons from my past take my power anymore. So, as tough as this video was for me to make, trust me, I've been trying to film it for like 3 days now and I just couldn't seem to do it. I'm really hoping you guys take away from it. I know it was a long video and I really hope you share it, guys. You may not know, but there is probably somebody in your life who's been victimized, who needs to hear they're not alone, who needs to hear that they don't need to be ashamed of what happened, okay? We need to come together as a community. Once again, we need a community here, guys. Come on, let's do it. Let's actually look out for each other, because there's so much hate and evil in this world right now that I think we need to overshine it with love, guys. Okay? My next video is going to be coming up right away. It's not as dark, but I'm hoping you guys catch it as well. I really hope you guys have a great day, and I hope to maybe hear from you. Okay? See you later.